Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Mouse Minds. I am one of your hosts here, Robert, and we are here live this week. We actually have a guest host with us this week on our show this week. Now, I hope this is coming through well. We are actually doing this live on YouTube, as always, and of course, we have our podcast up every week at 5 on Fridays, so we have that going for you as well. I don't know why everyone is not showing up here. I don't know why others are not showing up. Maybe I'm losing signal or something here.
Yeah, I
Can
don't
you
know if
guys
the
see
L
me?
is Lisa or if that's another link of Lauren.
It's Lisa. I can see her name, but I don't know if she's having an issue with her camera.
Yes.
There she is.
There she goes.
I'm having issues with my camera because I tried to do
Nice.
my phone.
That's all right.
So
We can just go on. We don't need the camera. It's perfectly fine.
sorry about that.
We got you. All right. So no, you're perfectly fine. Okay, guys. So we are here live on Mouse Minds on YouTube right now. I'm going to go ahead and kick this thing off here. I'm going to start this thing off. I'm going to say it again. Welcome to this week's episode of Mouse Minds. We are here with Michael. We have Lisa, and we have special guest host Lauren. And I don't know if I'm having connection issues or if you guys can hear me.
Sound fine to me.
I hear you fine.
I don't know if I'm having issues or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start this
You
over.
guys are way behind. Give me 1 second here, guys.
I'm always behind.
Yeah, I'm going.
Time zone. Yeah.
There's no such thing as technical difficulties at Disney.
Right. But that's okay. We'll be fine.
Yeah, it's my
If we have to
internet.
start over, we start
Give
over.
me
Every week
1
we're
second,
good.
guys.
Sometimes it's been. So, wonder what the new component is this week that would have thrown things. Oh, okay. I know we can blame then. Last week we didn't have Lauren. Everything was okay. This week we have Lauren, and all four of us have technical difficulty. Ooh. That's one thing that we've added to
Lauren,
this.
we're happy you're here.
Maybe I have some kind of kinetic energy that's just.
Everything off.
Everything is off. It's all right.
That's all right. When Robert gets back, we'll start up one more time.
We'll go with it.
Yep.
You there?
Yeah, you're back.
Mhm.
Clearer. Nice. Very
Okay,
good.
perfect.
Awesome.
All right, guys. So I'm going to start over here. So I want to welcome everybody to this week's episode of Mouse Minds. My name is Robert, and as always, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Lisa, Michael, and we have a special guest host this week, Lauren, who is joining us here live. And this week, we are talking merchandise. We're going to talk some of our favorite merchandise, what gets us excited at the parks, what gets us to spend more dollars inside the parks on merchandise. And I know I've kind of shared my views in the past on merchandise, but we'll kind of take a little deeper dive into that. So we definitely want to welcome Lauren to the show, and welcome to Mouse Minds. Thanks for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And we have Michael. Michael, how you doing this week?
Doing well. Thank you. Still battling this cold. Florida needs to warm up because I've had it now.
That is true. I will agree with you there. And Lisa, are you there?
I am here. I'm just this camera on my phone is not quite working, but okay, I'm here.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, we definitely appreciate you being here, Lisa. And for those of you not watching the live stream, Lisa is completely lost in the vortex. We have no idea where she is. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. She's fine.
There, just somewhere.
All right, so we are all set and ready to go here. So just to kick things off here, talking merchandise here, I want to start off with, I guess we could start by listing everyone's favorite merchandise. We'll start with our guest host this week, if she doesn't mind being put on the spot, and that'll kind of kickstart the conversation here.
I never mind. Well, I'm one of those less fortunate people who've only been to Disney World 4 times in my almost 42 years of life. So I'm not per se a park expert, but however, I do have a lot of friends that visit, and sometimes they'll be, "Hey, while I'm here, anything you want?" So I got into Loungefly bags through a friend, and I went very deep down that rabbit hole. At one point, I think there were about 150 of them on my wall, and I saw them as art pieces. I was very intrigued by how creative they got with so many of the different movies, favorite scenes, and so forth. And then I realized I went too far down that hole, and and my wallet felt it. So I pulled back quite a bit, and I decided only to collect like favorite movie or favorite character, that kind of thing. So I have a lot less than 150 now, but that would probably be the most of merchandise, one item that I have.
Nice. So before we go too into all the collecting, can you give us an idea of, since you said you're not a park avid, and there's so much more to Disney than just the parks, I guess for us locals or for the fans who go to the park so often, you have somebody like you who's a huge Disney fan, but it doesn't have to involve the parks. What got you into Disney? What is your specialty? What do you enjoy about it? What are your favorite whatever's beyond collecting?
Sure. The oldest memory I've got, dating myself here with VHS tapes, but I got $20 for something. I don't remember, allowance maybe or whatever, when I was a kid, and my mom took me to some random little shop, and they had a couple of VHS tapes, and I chose Bambi. Of all ones, and it's funny enough, it's really not even one of my favorite movies at all. But that was the first time I owned a Disney anything, and we went when I was 6. I don't remember that. Went when I was 10. Don't remember that. However, my senior high school gift, if you were, for graduating, my friends and I all went to Disney there, and I think that's when I started to really appreciate the park and appreciate what Disney was and all the characters and so forth. So I started to collect a lot of the movies. I had a massive VHS and then soon DVD collection, and I just started to fall in love with the different characters, especially the classics from the 90s. Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, all Lion King, those classics, that just the songs that take you in, and the characters that you get attached to. So that's kind of how I started with just collecting in general, and then I just started to find unique pieces, or I went into Vinylmation for a while, and I met a couple friends who I'm still friends with, 10 plus years later, and we've never met in person. But we've met through this. I actually met a gentleman named Kevin Graham, who is an actual Disney artist, and he is phenomenal. I mean, he's so talented. He does like baseball card things and others, and just regular artwork. And I actually have a piece of his in my room. So it's just fascinating how much this one company or this one idea that Walt Disney had can bring so many people together from so many different places. I have friends I met through a key group that are in Canada. I have a Loungefly friend where there was this one bag specifically only sold in Australia. And I met this woman there, and we became friends, started to exchange gifts and things from there. So it's just wonderful that you can have such a diverse world of creativity through Disney.
Nice, thank you. So now, Lisa, since you may have to leave us, what is your take on collecting? I don't know if you go down there and collect or if you buy things for your kids, unless it's a collection or for them. What's your take? How do you handle it?
I have a couple of collections. I would say I have a lot of popcorn buckets. I don't get all of them. I just get the ones that I really like the character or the attraction or whatever it is. So I have a lot of popcorn buckets. Every trip we either get a magnet and or a ornament, like when the kids are with me. And then there was one other, I have a lot of ears. A lot of ears. So I didn't mean to collect four different things, but that's kind of how it ended up. But a lot of things, like we've kind of switched gears. I don't buy things as many things as I did. We often get like something consumable or something very specific, instead of filling our house, because with 5 kids times 5, sometimes we go 4 times a year, or more. And so that would be a lot, a lot of items. So, we maybe do a family gift, or we go to Germany and get caramel corn because everyone likes it and they eat it on the way home, or, things like that. So we take pictures.
Do you fly or drive down?
It depends on number of individuals going. So, and if there are good flights. So it just depends on how much space we have too.
That's where I
It,
was going with
like
that.
when I come for, I've got a conference in a couple of weeks, so I'll be down there for a conference. I have another conference this summer. I'll take some of the children. So depending on if it's 3 and if I can afford flights, then we'll do it. Otherwise, I tend to drive. I do the drive. It's about 16 to 20 hours, depending on how many times we have to stop. So, anyways, yeah, it just depends.
I
I
figure
tend not,
driving, you have a lot more room in that trunk for everything you can find and just load up.
right, right. Well, and I think that everything multiplies, even if we don't buy a lot of things. Everything doesn't fit in the car as well on the way home as it did the way there. I don't know why, but it happens every time.
Bags are a little bulgy.
Disney math.
It is Disney math. Yeah, but I heard that was mentioned, like when someone knows that, like, I love Beauty and the Beast or Pirates of the Caribbean, like they will say, "Hey, I found this. Do you want one of these?" Or if a friend goes to Cast Connection, they're like, "Oh, I know you liked this before. Do you want this now?" Um, so people, I do have they save things for me till my next trip, and I just bring them home with me then. So I
Yeah,
try not
speaking
to.
of friends getting you stuff, I got married in the theme of Beauty and the Beast because that was the movie that my husband and I just seemed to be connected to in so many different ways. We kept seeing these little signs from the movie as we were dating, so we decided it was fitting. And during our engagement, I had people sending me, "Oh, here's a picture of some Belle shoes that you could, decorate and wear," or, "Oh, look at this dress," or, "Oh, I found this cute candelabra. Maybe you could use that during your ceremony." And it was just, I was being inundated on Facebook with these pictures, and they just kept tagging me. And I thought it was so sweet that they knew my love of that movie and how special it was for us, and just kept sending that. So. And on your magnet thing, I actually do the same thing. I like the idea that you have such a big fridge, to have all this space. And so anytime we go anywhere, I get a magnet. And that's how
It's
every
fun.
time I look at it, I can go, "Oh, look, remember when we went to blah," and you see the magnet. So it's kind of like that constant reminder because we're always at the fridge every day.
Right. That's one of those constants. Everyone knows that they're going to go to the fridge and they'll see things, and
Mm-hmm.
it's fun.
Exactly.
So what's great, I think, about collecting now is that when we were younger, um, you pretty much had to go to Disney to get these really cool items. And this was
Mhm.
before the internet. And now you have folks that will wake up at the crack of dawn or at the release of a Shop Disney item, and they are on there and they are reloading and they are there for the countdown. And when they don't get it, they're disappointed and they're hoping it falls out of somebody's cart. To the point where even in the parks, Disney has to limit items because of things like eBay and the resale market where, Robert, if you remember all those posts when Splash Mountain was closing down and there were just folks with bags full of merchandise because there was no
Oh, yeah.
limit. And they're buying just, how many plus you have? 20? I'll take them. And these were not going home onto anyone's bed or anyone's shelf.
No.
Yeah.
Speaking of
And
popcorn
people-
buckets, the Figment
And
bucket,
people
that thing
people would
went
post-
viral.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying she collects popcorn buckets, and Figment. When that one came out, they were literally limiting, I think, 1 or 2 or whatever per person because that thing went insane. Everybody and their grandmother was buying a Figment bucket, and you just couldn't get them for a while.
Yeah,
Right. And there's some of the newest popcorn buckets are fantastic, but to get your hands on them, somebody has to put in a mobile order or, be there at the parks during the times when they've restocked. So popcorn buckets are kind of hard to get.
They
Sometimes.
are, and I've been lucky to have like I said, a friend or two that just happened to be there, and I say, hey, if you have a chance, can you look for this one? I'd really love it if you find it, and they're like, yeah, and then I get it for retail, and they just ship it to me. So, but not everybody's lucky, and I just happen to be in that moment. But most times I miss out on whatever cool thing it is because I'm not near a park. So.
Yeah, and what Michael was saying too about the resellers, they're pretty gutsy over the years. You'll see a lot of things pop up on eBay before even people have a chance to purchase them, just because the resellers want to see what the market's like before they even decide if they're going to go to the parks or not and pick up the merchandise. So they'll put the stuff on there and see what it sells for, and then if it sells for anything, then they'll go to the parks and actually buy it. And Disney has done a good job, a fairly good job with the resellers, but I think the problem with merchandise and why Disney has to keep a low supply and kind of keep that hype up so people will continue to buy the merchandise. The biggest thing that we've seen in the past, especially with Mickey ears, or the ears, is like the rose gold ears, for example. As soon as the rose gold ears came out, there was a huge rush. They sold out within a day, and then you didn't see them for like 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, there was 1 million of them, and they couldn't sell them for nothing. So Disney has been burned in the past by merchandise a couple of times. They had the same thing happen with the Figment buckets. The Figment buckets, were gone, and they brought a ton back and created a whole system in place to move these things, because they have no problem, buying the stuff if people want it, and then eventually the demand wasn't there anymore, and people were just ignoring it completely. So it's very interesting to see what happens with merchandise, and because Disney was at a point where they were just, if something had any sort of heartbeat that it was going to be popular, they would put gobs of money into producing as much as they can and then hoping that it sticks. And then there were some times that it did, but most of the time it didn't. And then they were stuck with all this excess merchandise that wound up at Cast Connection or the outlets or so on and so forth.
Yeah, I don't think they know. And I guess that's the thing with marketing. You don't know what's going to move and what's not going to move. Folks went crazy for this last Mickey Halloween bucket. I think it was the Empire, right? And
one of them glowed in the dark, I think.
Sawgrass to the clearance store, the outlet, you were tripping over the mummy bucket. Tons. The mummy was there. The Christmas tree was there. Woody with the blocks were there. Figment never made it, but this one I have a good feeling will, because as I said a couple of weeks ago, when I was walking through the parks last year, this time, everyone had Figment around their neck. Those popcorn buckets were selling. And now I seldom, if ever, see people walking around with those oversized imagination buckets. I don't think this one's going to sell. I think they banked on last year and say, hey, if we do Figment, people
Well,
will buy it again.
last year they did sell at the beginning, but then it kind of petered off, and then they weren't selling as much as they were. So they figured they had to do some sort of a refresh to get people excited in it. Maybe they could capture all the people that purchased one before, and hey, there's a little variation here. Now we can sell more because, oh, you don't have this one, you don't have the new one. But I really think that the Disney consumers, the ones that go to the parks and the ones that specifically buy the merchandise like this, mostly are pass holders, things like the really hardcore fans. And I think they can only be, I hate to use this word, but milk so much. They can only do so much, and they're just if Disney's going to come out with a new popcorn bucket every year for Imagination, I just don't think that people are going to be purchasing it every year. It's not going to be on their radar to purchase, every year. So it's like I said, it's very interesting to see, and then merchandise across all the parks is very interesting too, because what merchandise at, say, um Walt Disney World versus Disneyland, or say one of the parks in Asia, or Paris, is completely different. I know one of the things that I noticed the most when I went to Disneyland Paris was one of the only things that I want is just a shirt with Mickey on it, or something that, or characters on it that says Disneyland Paris. And there was basically only one shirt in the whole place that had Disneyland Paris on it. They had shirts with Mickey, Minnie, everything else, but they were just in their normal like settings. And you go to Walt Disney World and there's 50 shirts that say Walt Disney World on them. And from what I've seen, the same applies to the parks in Japan and or Tokyo, the parks in Japan, and of course in the other Asia countries, Shanghai and Hong Kong, is they don't really care so much about something that says, I was there. It's about the characters, it's about the IP, it's about having Duffy and friends on the shirts, and so on and so forth. It's not necessarily about saying, you know Tokyo Disneyland. It's about saying Walt Disney World, or about the characters.
And to that point, there was a time when there was park specific stuff, and now there's too much with the Disney parks. Even something as simple as ponchos. You could get a Walt Disney World poncho, and now everything is Disney parks, and they will list all the parks at the bottom, just to only have to make one. Lisa, I know you're going to have to go, and then we'll throw it over to Lauren. But is there one thing in your collection that you are either the most proud of, or the thing that puts the biggest smile on your face, or the one thing that brings back the best memory for you, or something you've had since you were young? What is your prized possession in your collection? Okay, ahead. Lisa?
All right, bye.
No,
No, I'm just outside the
I
car.
don't-
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm not sure what my prized possession is. I don't know if I could pick just one. I enjoy. I don't know. I mean, I have stuff from the Indie Disney meets too. Like I have some things that can't be redone or replaced, like a script from Full House signed by Bob Saget. Like just
Wow.
some random things that I picked up through the years at our auctions, and things that I didn't get at the parks, but they still have significant meaning. So I don't know if I can pick just one.
That makes sense. Okay. Lauren, what is your biggest piece, or what's your favorite Disney film, or do you have things from that film? Or since you're not buying things at the parks, you're obviously looking online, or now we can go to Target because the Disney store is shuttered.
Yeah. I mean, I have Facebook. That's my go-to, Disney store. If you were, I mean, there's a Facebook group for bloody everything, for anything, whether it's Disney or otherwise, but there's something for everyone. And so, over the years when I've had these various, I went from the Vinylmation, then I got into keys, then I got into Loungefly bags, then I got into pins. And every time I'd get into one, I'd get out of the other and just sell off whatever it was, except for the ones that I really, really liked or otherwise. There's only so much money. So, but I have something special from each collection in a sense. Vinylmation, for instance, I met this wonderful artist who used clay, and they would utilize a 3-inch Vinylmation character, usually one of the cheap ones, and they would then use that with the clay, and they'd create something else. I have this one particular where my oldest is 13 now, middle child 7, youngest is 21 and asleep on me, 21 months, I should say. And I have sung Baby Mine from Dumbo to every single one of them until they tell me to stop. So, and obviously the 13-year-old, I haven't done it for a while. But back when she was much younger, because of that song, she started to love elephants as her favorite animal. And then she'd have a big Dumbo collection that she had on her shelves at one point. Also has grown out of that as a teenager now. But this one piece was a Vinylmation of Mrs. Jumbo holding Dumbo in her trunk, like in the scene. And it's all made out of a little 3-inch figure and clay. And they hand painted it, and it's just my favorite thing. I used to have another really creative. I want to say the guy's name was Raz Opticon, or it's something close to that. I haven't seen him around in years, but he made a huge, almost full-sized Chinese dragon that was Stitch, because Stitch was my favorite character. Still is. I love my guy. And the head of the dragon was Stitch, but it also had that Chinese dragon feel to it. And then the whole body was made with clay and some piping, and then he had 4 poles coming out of it, as you would, to hold up the dragon during the ceremony. And the 4 pole holders were Lilo and Jumba and Pleakley, and I am blanking on the guard's name. Big guy, looks like a shark almost.
Gantu.
Captain Gantu. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sleepy these days. That's what teething babies do. So it was just the most unique piece. Unfortunately, it broke during a move, and I just haven't had the chance to replace it. But it was. I have pictures to show, kind of thing. To remember it by. But as far as my favorite movie, that would be Emperor's New Groove, hands down. And I have an extensive collection that I'm actually staring at right now. Comprises of some Loungefly bags, one of which I actually had hand painted for me of all my favorite scenes that are all over this bag. I have all the Funko Pops. I have a piece from my 40th birthday cake that I had designed into the theme of the roller coaster ride. So they made the roller coaster cart out of fondant. So obviously it would harden. And I have that sitting on a shelf too. I have paintings. I've got lithographs. I had somebody do, I found another Facebook person. She was crocheting different Disney characters. So I have a Kuzco as a llama, and I have a Kuzco as Kuzco, and a little poison bottle. I have pins. I've got, wallets and ornaments. I've got so many different things over there. It's kind of just a fun, eclectic collection of random Disney things that I just found fascinating. I also love to support small businesses. So I'll go on Etsy sometimes and I'll find somebody there. So I just like the unique and the different. But yeah, that's my favorite movie for sure.
I guess even sticking to one film isn't a way to save money, because of depending upon how much there is out there. But now even with Etsy, you can have people create anything you want for you.
Oh, exactly. Stitch. Loungefly and Stitch. There's like 5 billion Loungeflies that are designed for Stitch. I mean, they went a little crazy on this, and even Stitch fans would be complaining, like, can they make another character? I'm even tired of Stitch bags. So sometimes, like you were saying with Disney, with the marketing, they don't always know. They may think, oh, everybody loves Stitch. Yeah, well, he's awesome, and we do, but we also like other characters too. We like other movies, and we're getting a little sick and tired of having a 17th Stitch in the last 2 months. It's like,
as Robert will probably attest to, I guess we all hated when Stitch toilet papered the castle. That was a flop. You're there every weekend almost, Robert. So, and I can't picture you coming home with a bag every single trip. Is there anything you buy, or anything you keep around?
Every once in a while, I'll buy some T-shirts, but that's about it for me. I mean, I just gotten to the point where I don't do, like, if I'm going to. So the only thing that I will spend money on when it comes to the parks is stuff that was actually in the parks. Like, I'll drive down to the Lakeland Antique Mall. I'll go to Hope Thrift. I'll go have someone, a friend get me into Cast Connection or one of those places to buy actual things from the parks. Now that type of stuff excites me. Like, I have chairs in my house from like Fort Wilderness. So like I like there's all kinds of stuff. So that kind of stuff excites me. Yeah, I've done the merchandise in the past. I bought the different things and so on and so forth. What I've found, especially with the merchandise, is a lot of the stuff just isn't quality made. It's just made to get it out really fast, and it doesn't last. And honestly, like, I've done the popcorn bucket thing too, and not to degrade anyone who does that. That's awesome. I just can't get into it. Like, I just see it as one more thing that sits on my shelf, and what am I going to do with it? And I have no use for it. But the shirts now, I can wear those. Those are useful. If it's useful, then I'm all about it. I will, they have the $20 shirts at World of Disney. I'll go in there and buy, 5 or 6 shirts, and I'll continually do that. Or if I see a really nice shirt, maybe a button up that has, Tiki Room themed or something, I'm all about it. I'll be the first one in line to purchase it. But when it comes to like actual, like, I want to say like tchotchkes, they're just not. I don't do the pins. I've never been a pin person. I did the Vinylmation for a little while, but never really got into that because there were some really cool ones when they had the Vinylmation store at Disney Springs. That was fun, but they stopped doing Vinylmations, and then it's just Disney hasn't really. The only other thing that I will say that I do have is the Tron merchandise. Now, they did get me with that. I bought one of the identifier discs from the Tron gift shop, and then I bought the action figure that is your face, and it sits on my desk at work. So I have my own action figure of me as a Tron character on my desk at work. So that I was like, you know what, I need that for my collection, to have at least something on my desk. I think that would look really cool. So that, and then the identifier disc, I think, are like the two things that right now that I really like. And then I've considered getting the Tron backpack, which holds where you can put the identifier disc on the backpack, and like it's cool. Like, those things are exciting to me. Like, I would wear that around, and it's cool that it lights up. Like, but the popcorn buckets, things like that, they just, I don't know what it is. I mean, I understand the excitement for Loungeflies. I think some of them are really cool. I've seen some that light up. There's a girl at my work who literally has a different Loungefly for every day of the week. Like, she has like so many. She just, like, every day is a different one, and she just has one ready to go. And every week it cycles, and she just spends all this. And I have friends who have the ears. So I mean, I see the frenzy. I understand it. I mean, I get it. Like, with the t-shirts, if I go to Epcot, I want to have a cool Epcot t-shirt. I've even gone as far as going to thrift shops and buying old Epcot t-shirts for like old attractions and stuff, just to like wear that, like retro, like. So there's, I mean, I can understand the hysteria, like, for a lot of these products. I'm just not a pen person. I'm not a popcorn bucket person. I mean, I thought the popcorn bucket for Figment was awesome. The new one, I thought it was great, but it's just not. It's just where am I going to put it? It's just they take up too much space for me.
Yeah, far less space than a shirt's going to take up, folded up in your closet,
Mhm.
hung up, and
Yeah.
that's easy.
Exactly.
You think about how many shirts you can put into your suitcase versus a popcorn bucket. Even I was like psyched when they announced that they were coming out with that Mr. Toad popcorn bucket, and I'm like, okay, I got to go get this. And then when I got to the park and saw it, I'm like, you know what, $35, I don't need this, and I let that go, and I don't miss it. I'm not sad I didn't get it. Same thing with the imagination. I thought I was going to go race and get that, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what, hard pass.
I like to feel that is a sign of adult maturity. I mean, I went through my own phase too in my 20s and my 30s where I was just collecting anything I saw. Like, okay, I mean, when I went to Disney with she was 4.5 at the time, my oldest, and my parents, they treated us. I tell you what, I spent my entire tax refund, the whole thing in that park, and then probably part of my paycheck. And I came home with stuff, and I just remember thinking, like, what did I spend my money on? Like, what did I really buy? I mean, at the end of the day, and most of it, I did have a T-shirt or two, or a hat, or something fun. But the majority was just, like you said, tchotchke stuff. That as you get older, you kind of look back and like, I don't need any of this. It's just taking up space. I have to dust it. I'm allergic to dust. Why do I, and you get it, to people who would appreciate it more, somebody that's going to be really into it and they have their whole, organized, like curio cabinet of stuff and things like that. Cause, like you said, the quality has gone down. I mean, keys. I mean, keys used to be a big thing. There was literally just one every couple of months. It usually had a theme, and it was kind of worth collecting. And then I think it was 2020 or 2021 where Disney just went off their rocker, and they started putting out like 5 a month. And then like these collections of like 6 at a time and 5 at a time, 4 at a time. And even the key community was like, okay, please just slow down, like my wallet, and then people that were collecting, they just said, I'm done with this. I mean, there are some hardcore ones that I've seen their walls, and they have literally, like I said, like curio cabinets of them, or they've got framed, or they've made them really, made some 3D printing things to hold them all. And fantastic for them, that if that's what you want to spend your money on, go for it. I got 3 kids. I don't have, $80,000 a year to spend on keys. So,
Stretching your
don't think
income
it's-
is one thing. When you don't have it,
that's true. I mean,
that
and that's the thing. I think the Disney brings out the kid in us. I mean, I like to joke that I always fly there. But the closer we got, with the airplane, the lower your age gets. So by the time you get into the park, you're somewhere around the age of like a 7-year-old kid. I mean, when I first the first time Stitch was around was when I was 32 with my daughter, and I tell you what, the pictures of me with Stitch that they took, you can't pay for that smile on my face. I mean, it is like an authentic, like I might as well be a 5-year-old meeting my favorite hero for the first time in my life, because the joy on my face. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm a grown adult. I know that there's a person, like I know what's going on, but in that moment, it was Stitch. I was hugging Stitch. I was so happy. So I think that's the thing that gets us, is that magic that Disney creates inside you, that brings that little kid out. That's the person that wins a lot of the times when you buy those little things that just bring you joy instantaneously. Like whenever I go again, I'm buying a lightsaber. I'm going to Harry Potter Land and I'm getting a wand. I don't care how old I am. Like I want these things.
and
I grew up with these things,
And I think that location plays a big part in what people purchase, because the thing is like this. I could most certainly go and buy a lightsaber and then have it, but if I came here once a year, then absolutely I would do that, hands down. I would buy a lightsaber or something as a souvenir. But being so
Yeah.
close and being able to go to the parks are my souvenir. That's what I have. I mean, going so much, I just don't need that extra stuff to remind me
Exactly.
going there because I'm there, and I hate to. I don't want to sound like pretentious or anything like that, but I mean, I think for most people that live in Orlando, they feel the same way. Like the parks are right there. You know, I'd rather take that money and spend it on a nice meal. You know,
Hmm.
have a nice meal at
It's the
Disney or
experience.
something else. The experience of it instead of like the souvenir, because when I leave, I'm gonna come back in a couple of days anyways. So
Right.
Oh, if
And
you
only.
we're
know,
both pass holders.
I hate to say that way. Like, I'm not trying to sound pretentious. I'm just saying, like,
Oh
I'm just
no,
trying to give you our perspective, and I think Michael has a similar perspective.
Yeah,
no,
see,
I
I've seen
agree,
folks with
100%, 100%.
as pass holders, Robert. I've seen folks that have to buy anything that Disney throws the word pass holder on, and
Hmm.
I'm not that way. I'm saying, where do I get my pass holder popcorn bucket? It's the same thing as the other
Hmm.
bucket. You don't necessarily need it. Um, Even to Robert's point about these lightsabers. I mean, I was in Oga's Cantina one night, and I'm standing there having my drink, and I looked over at the table, and hey, whatever your thing is, that's awesome. There were 4 people, probably in their 20s, and I counted 6 lightsabers between the
Hmm.
table and the floor. 4 people,
Hmm.
which means somebody
Yeah.
either had 3 or 2 people had 2. But these
Yeah,
things are not cheap. These are not the $10, $15, $20 plastic
Yeah.
no,
lightsabers. These
they're
are
over 100. Yeah,
almost
they're
120, almost
expensive.
200.
More
By
than
Yeah,
the
that.
time they fancy it up, I'm standing there going, "This is over $1,000 in merchandise on
on one table.
lightsabers
Yeah,
that you are
Hmm.
probably old enough to know better." Because I don't want to. I mean, yeah, you take it to the park, that's fine. But when you get it home, what the heck are you doing with that thing? Please don't
I
tell
mean,
me
for
you're
me,
running
it'll
around
be my
having a sword
7-year-old's
fight with your
toy,
friend.
but you know.
You know, I was getting the uncomfortable chills for them, and some of them didn't look like they were in their 20s anymore. So
Yeah, like I said, I think that's just one of those things that I grew up on Star Wars. I mean, my parents played bridge with this one family that had a boy and a girl, a little older than me, and we watched, all the Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Princess Bride, like that was just our niche, kind of genre. And so I just got so hooked on it over the years, and I do have a bit of a Star Wars collection. It's not a crazy one, but I have some fun pieces. And yeah, but that's the thing is that when you're not in the park frequently, it's kind of like both are your joy. Not only the experience is the best part, but then you're like, well, I got to remember that I was here because I only come once every blue moon. So let me grab a whole bunch
Hmm.
of fun stuff, and then I can't say you regret it per se. I mean, I think you did it because you could, and because it was that memory. So every time you look at whatever, you go,
Hmm.
oh, and remember in 2007 when we went and it was so wonderful, and then we met this and we did that, and um, but like you said, if you're there all the time, your gift is your experience. I mean, you get to be in the park, which is the thing that makes people like me super jealous. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And
Trust
I
me,
have
we pay
friends that
dearly
are.
for it. We pay dearly for
Oh, I know you do. Yeah, I mean, I have
it.
friends in upstate New York that go probably every couple months, and I have one friend who was actually almost a neighbor. I mean, she lived like around the block and a bit, and I forget honestly how the two of us met. Oh, I know how our kids were in school together, and turned out she is a Disney travel agent. So as part of her company's thing, I'd say has to go, but I mean she has to be a frequent flyer to some extent. And I tell you what, both of her boys, they go every year for their birthdays. They go for all the big things, the Halloween party, the Christmas thing,
Hmm.
the wine festival. I mean, all the things that I've never been to and have always wanted to do, but just not in my cards. They go every single year, and she's there like every couple weeks. I mean, it's like every time I look at Facebook, oh, we're in Disney. I'm like, again.
that's
It's just,
somebody who doesn't even live here. So for us to drive there, Robert,
yeah, I
do you
mean
have
Yeah.
that's
any?
easy for you, obviously, but they just get on a plane and they go, and she's been to Disneyland, Disney World. They go, either one throughout the year. I mean, usually most of
Hmm.
it's World because that's closer for New York, but
Hmm.
um, it's just I try not to have the green monster come out, but so there are days where I'm just like, Really? You go, oh, I'd love to take my kid to Disney. I'd like to go to the Disney store again, but that ain't in the cards, is it? So,
Robert, have you made any kind of what was the craziest impulse buy, if any, that you buy? You know, because the rest of us, if Lauren's shopping online or ordering something, she knows she's not walking down to get. Were you ever in a store and you said, you know what, I need this? Was there that one shirt and like, holy cow, I hope they have this in my size. It's got to come home with me.
So I'm trying to think because it wouldn't be anything that would be like a merchandise piece that you could get from the parks. For me, if it would have been a craziest buy, so back in the day, there used to be a couple stores, and of course Disney too, that had shops that would sell merchandise or items that were in the parks. Like you could buy like signs or different like you could like I know um at one store you could buy like there used to be this like sign in Tomorrowland that had said like it had all these little signs coming out of it and it would say like Knights of Pluto and like it was like all these like little it's hard to describe but if you've been to Tomorrowland before they added the new like entrance you would have seen this giant like statue and they were selling that so things like that things that are physically in the parks that people have touched that people have sat on that have been there for years like this is inside Magic Kingdom. So so things like that I have spent large money on and done impulse purchases on. I know I also bought because I used to a long time ago um I I worked at Pleasure Island for a brief period and I bought things from Pleasure Island that were, you know, on like the like some of the posters that were framed and some of the cast outfits and things like that. Like I bought that stuff. I have some of it somewhere still from Pleasure Island because that was like a place that was near and dear to my heart. So things like that I will impulse buy like you know nobody's business. I mean, I even had a friend who bought like uh giant statues from they were in the Emporium on Main Street and it was like a giant oh my god I think one was like a giant there was a giant Mickey and a giant Minnie and they were actually sitting in the Emporium and he had this in his house so things like that like and I was so jealous of that like all the time because this was in Magic Kingdom like for me if it was in the park like if it was in Epcot or it was this or that like I will go all out for that stuff like I've seen on eBay someone selling a car from Horizons like the ride Horizons I would be all over that I mean there is a limit, but there really isn't when it comes to stuff like that. Because I like just to know that that was in the parks for me. That means a lot more to me than a shirt that everyone else can get. Because now I have something that's kind of rare. Like if you
it's a
look at
piece of history.
if you look at who is it? John Stamos. John Stamos has the Dumbo car in his house. The Dumbo, like the actual Dumbo. He bought it at one of the auctions, and they have these auctions in California every year with all the merchandise or all the things that were in Disney parks. And he bought the Dumbo, the ride vehicle, and he has other stuff too, all throughout his house. And it's just so amazing. Like that's the type of stuff that gets me excited. Yeah, I agree. Like the lightsabers and making the little droids and all that stuff is fun and it's nice and you know the Tron figurine that's awesome. But what really will get me to open my wallet is stuff like that. And Universal did the same thing. Universal had a store, which I stopped at kind of frequently, which their prop shop, which was just stuff that they had in that was in the parks from different rides, and then they would sell it. You know, it could be I bought stuff that was like a milk jug from the Twister attraction. You know, I bought stuff like that to stuff that you could actually tell came from that attraction. So, or from other attractions. So that type of stuff does get me excited because I can point to that and there's like a story behind it instead of just saying, "Oh, I got this at Disney World."
Yeah, I
Only
didn't
one
even
other
know that
concept.
kind of stuff
Right. And
was for sale.
There's
just
a
have to
there's a
be in the
huge
know. You
market
can
for it.
stumble on it.
I mean, the Lakeland Antique Mall near you, Michael. I mean, the Lakeland Antique Mall that is like huge. They're huge right now. Look at all the YouTubers. They all go there. I mean, it's packed. They're selling stuff. The prices are so inflated in there because people are paying it. And they have all this stuff that was in the parks. Um, and people are just paying whatever. They don't care. It's amazing. But yeah, that stuff really sells. It sells really well, actually.
Well,
See,
like
I
you
would
said,
love
it's
to
one of a
own.
kind. You know.
I would
Yeah.
love to own some of that stuff, but for me, it's cheaper because I don't mind. I guess if you're going to put it up, I don't mind having that's what Etsy and all these other little shops are for. People will make replicas of. So even if I
Mhm.
don't get the actual sign, I can still get something similar. Yeah, it's not as cool as something. When I go to one of the shops, we're not here to plug these folks. They're certainly not sponsors. One of the shops down here in Central Florida, the gentleman is part of the renovation team, and he will get a lot of stuff when the resorts are renovated and when they're doing
Mhm.
the construction. He will buy stuff in a lot and then sell it out of his
Mhm.
shop. And I have two really nice
Mhm.
pictures from the Grand Floridian. I don't remember them being in the rooms, but
Yes.
I've got both
Yes,
of
I
them,
have
the
that
one with the
too.
bridge and the one with the
They're
swan.
they weigh a ton.
They
They
do.
weigh a ton. And I tried to hang it on my wall and I couldn't get it up because they weigh a ton and it kept falling off and it was well, not falling, but I couldn't get it to stay and I was not going to leave it up there. And speaking of things that and I'd have to look for it, but I have it around here somewhere. Speaking of things that are in the parks, I actually have now this was given to me. I didn't buy this. Someone that was on the demolition crew for the Osborne Spectacle of Lights
Hmm.
actually cut off a strand of lights, like a big thick strand of lights, and gave it to me. So I have lights actually from Osborne Lights.
See, when everyone else is like, what the heck are you doing with those broken lights? No, these are not broken lights. You don't
These are not
understand
broken.
what these lights are. Do they light? No, they don't light. So what do you have them for? Hey, but here's the thing. Everyone else looks at it like, will you just get rid of the garbage that's laying around your house, please? Like, you don't understand the significance of these lights, Fred.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
I think that's one of the best things about Disney stuff is that whether it's, you know, basic merchandise or something as unique as a random thing of lights, it there's a story at least on our end. You can explain to somebody, well, this is why I bought this. Like I have a carousel Loungefly because my mom loves carousels ever since I was a kid. She used to collect carousel horses, and I just got one of the ones from I think it's the Mickey Through the Years or whatever it was. And there were people that collected every single item in each of those monthly Mickey and Minnie things. For me, I just like the keys. And it wasn't even because I collected keys in general. I just thought they were so unique and so well done. And I needed a special way to display them. So I found somebody in one of the Facebook groups and I had designed with her this kind of board, I guess you can say. And she has the castle in the background, and then there's a spot for each of the keys, and it shows the emblem that was shown from the collection. And all I had to do was add these little stick-on like 3M like little hooks to set the key into, and I put two hooks for each one. And it's just I love this piece. I mean, it's one of a kind. Nobody else has this board. Nobody else came up with it because it was between me and this one person, and she's not selling it. It was just this is what we came up with. It's mine. So even though I don't have something from the park or something that's historical, I do have one of a kind stuff. And I can
Mhm.
at least tell somebody, hey, this is why I have this, and this is why I did this, and I've had T-shirts designed for me. I've had, a couple different pieces, that I have that are very, very niche and specific, from a painting to otherwise. So, that's where, like I said, the third party and the mom and pop shops and the small businesses, they come in handy for people like me that didn't even know any of what you just said existed. I didn't know there were places you could buy, or there were auctions, or I'm never in that kind of a Disney loop. I guess you could say so. But yeah, I probably couldn't even afford the stuff that I'd want anyway. So
like you said, is making it your own, having it your own collection, your own display. How do you display your keys?
Mhm.
People get creative in how they display their pins, or they hang up those Minnie Mouse ears that I will never understand. Or what do you do with the bags? You can
I don't
collect
get
them,
the
put them in
ears
a
either.
box, put them away, but you can't appreciate them without going into the garage and opening the box and going through and remembering and taking it out. Or I used to collect
Mhm.
the Disney classic statues, and I'd have my curio, but after a while, you run out of room, you run out of money, and like you said, when the line doesn't end, when the keys,
Yeah,
okay, it's a finite thing, we're done. The pins. I don't know if Robert remembers. If you
there's
remember
a
the Disney store
bazillion
around
pins.
the Millennium, they were coming out. I think they released like 100 pins, and it was going to be one a week or
Yeah.
two a week, or however they released it.
Mhm.
And you start doing the math in your head, and you go, if these are $7 plus tax, I'm going to spend over $800 on pins by
Yeah.
the time this line is done if
Yeah.
I'm doing this. But they hook
Yeah.
folks, and somebody's going to go out and be the
Yeah.
one to buy them. So we have to be strong enough to say, no, I'm not doing that. You got to be
Yeah, at
Robert.
that
You know
point, you
what? I'm
just
only
pick and
collecting.
choose your favorite character or movie
Well,
pin, and you just get a
it's.
handful of them, and you kind of
I
make your
don't think
own.
it's. Let's be clear. It's not about. It's not about having restraint as much as it is about everyone being into different things.
Hmm.
You know, that's the way in general that people will say, "Oh, this person this person that." They don't spend money on this, they don't spend money on that, but they spend their money in other places. So
Hmm.
Disney fans have their own areas where they're willing to spend the money. I think we all spend the same amount. We just spend it differently than
Differently.
everyone else.
Yeah.
You know, we someone may eat at Cosmic Rays for every meal that they have at Magic Kingdom. They won't ever go to a table service restaurant, but they'll spend $500 on lounge flies in the gift shop. So, or whereas someone may go to Cinderella's Royal Table and not spend anything in the Emporium. So
Yeah.
it really depends on what you're into. I think there's always something there that gets us to open up. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about, you had mentioned earlier the Etsy situation, and Etsy has always been sort of a sensitive topic when it comes to Disney because
I
I
relate.
personally have friends who have sold things on Etsy, and realistically, when you're selling things on Etsy, I mean, people have sold things that are identical clones to the stuff that you would get at Disney, in the sense that Mickey T-shirts, Spaceship Earth memorabilia. I've seen all kinds of things, 3D printed spaceships, Earths, all these things. So Disney at first didn't really do anything, and then Disney sort of saw this market taking off, and then they started going after these Etsy sellers and saying, "Well, you can't do that," and sending out these cease and desist letters. And not only that, I had a friend that made us a specific T-shirt with Disney stuff on it. I don't remember what it was for, but Disney copied it exactly and put it into their stores. Like they copied it
I remember that.
right, and they can and they have every right to do that because that's their IP, that's their brand, that they own that. So it doesn't surprise me that they do these things, and I'm curious what you guys think the future of the Etsy sellers are. I agree they're still around, and they kind of, as new things emerge, they kind of hop on the bandwagon. Like, for example, with Magic Bands. Now you see people selling devices for your home that will mimic the Magic Band machine that you have when you check into the turnstiles at Magic Kingdom. It'll do the same tone and all this stuff when you tap your Magic Band to it. So, little things like that come around, and I do think eventually Disney will do maybe the sort of the same thing, or in some sort of unique way. But Etsy is one of those things that it kind of like it's like this gray line where like people, you're just kind of you're either going to get Disney's going to come after you, or they're going to sell your merchandise in their stores, or they're just going to leave you be and you just kind of sit there in this kind of gray zone.
Yeah, I guess it's tough because certain things. If you're ripping off what Disney has, or you're taking their, I guess that's where you have to be careful when you're throwing the castle on there. Is it an exact copy of the castle? Is it not? Is it the exact Mickey? Is it not? But if somebody gets creative enough to come up with that Magic Band touch point, well, then shame on you, Disney, for not thinking of it first, not selling it first.
That's true.
But when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I might want to get one. And then I looked at the price. I mean, there's no way. You can keep your $200 and change bit for something that's not going to do anything except chime. So it's not worth it to me.
I also don't think that. I mean, I can't speak for obviously every Etsy person, but I think in general, these are just people that are just fans of it and had some kind of creative idea or creative ability, like they have a heat press machine or a 3D printer or some kind of laser etching machine or whatever, and they're just really good at it, or they just can come up with ideas and they just wanted to share them, and make some money, while doing it. Maybe support the family, have a second income, maybe if they're a stay-at-home mom like myself and they just want to, help out with a bill or two, and they don't do it because they're hoping to become famous or they're hoping to make the next big idea. Most of the time it's just because they had an idea and then a friend of theirs and a friend of theirs and a friend of theirs were like, oh, where'd you get that? Oh, I made it. Oh, really? Can I have one? And then the word just spreads, and then, they're like, oh, you should get an Etsy page. And then they do. And I mean, I have a friend, has nothing to do with Disney, but she sells elderberry syrup, and now her business went on TikTok and she has exploded all over the place, and it's like phenomenal for her, and she has 6 boys to support. That wasn't her idea, but now she's just super busy and super great, and I think it's the same thing with Disney products, that people know that there's a niche here and that there are millions of fans and so many new characters that keep coming out that people fall in love with, and they can use their creativity to help share that with the world, and especially, like I said, for people like me that and there are so many of us that can't go to the parks frequently. And my husband's 46 years old. He's never been. And I can't even fathom that. And I think to myself, I've only been 4 times, but he's never been, he's never done it. And he was a travel agent at one point too, so it's on my bucket list personally to get that man to Disney. If I have to drag him there by by walking or something, I'm like, you have to experience this once, in your life. It's one of those experiences, I say, you can't describe. Like, you just can't explain how you feel when you're there and what they do and the magic that is created. It really is a very different place, to be. And when you're able to go so often, I don't know if you guys, you might feel differently, but I mean, does the magic change at all? I mean, since you can go every bloody day if you want to. I mean, for me, it's like once every 10-15 years, it's like, oh, Disney, like I guess. But
if you really want to see see how that pans out, then you really have to look at the people who make this kind of their life. There's a lot of Disney vloggers, there's a lot of bloggers, there's a lot of people that have been in the Disney community for years, and you see people. There are people. It's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, for me personally, I'll never get tired of writing the People Mover. I'll write it over and over and over and over again and sit on there for hours and be extremely excited to do so. So, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But there are people that get burnt out and they just don't. It's not as appealing for them as it was anymore. But typically, for the most part, I mean, Disney does a good job, I think, of keeping things fresh, so people really, they stay excited. It keeps them invested in, having. I think honestly, the best thing that Disney has going for them is having parks with walls up in them, because it keeps you excited for the next thing. It keeps you wondering what it's going to look like, and keeps everyone. Why do websites that post all these different
lights?
construction updates and things. Why are they so? Because people are always wanting to see what's next, and they're always wondering
and I've seen people
how they're
take
going to do
pictures
things.
over those walls because they're excited to see what's going on. I guess Lauren has 4 years to figure out how to get her husband there for his 50th birthday. But
Yes, that would be a good one. That would be a good time to go. Absolutely.
this was great,
Absolutely.
Robert. Thank you. Appreciate
It'll be the two youngest will also get to go first then. So
yeah, first for a bunch of us.
first for everybody. We'll all get those buttons. Walk around with buttons and ears, matching ears for the whole family, right?
Well, this has been an amazing topic. And Lauren, it was so nice having you on the show with us here. We've kind of reached that hour mark.
Thank you so much. I had a great time.
No problem. So we definitely appreciate you joining us and talking about your merchandise, Michael. Do you have anything to say before we wrap things up here?
No, this was great. I mean, I've always been fascinated with all the different aspects and how people collect, and are they going down with a budget, or are they just going down with their eyes closed and a credit card in hand, and whatever I spend, and I'll figure it out when I get back from vacation. But no, this was awesome, man.
Disney math. What happens at Disney stays at Disney, even if it's credit card debt.
Everything leads to the poorhouse one way or the other. But it was nice to step away from the parks, and I guess we'll get back to our regular park talk next week. But we figure we just do something a little different this time and look at it from a different angle. So there's always some new way to look at Disney. So appreciate it, Lauren.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on. Robert, awesome as always. Thank you.
Yeah. So we
thank you again for having me.
Everyone being on here. We definitely thank Lisa for joining in with us as well. And I do apologize for my connection issues there at the beginning of the show. I'm going to have a lot more editing than I normally do this week. But we certainly appreciate you guys for joining us. Thanks for watching us live on YouTube. You can catch us every Tuesday at 8:30 on the Disney and Beyond channel. And then, of course, you can catch us Fridays at 5. We launch our podcast on all your favorite popular streaming platforms for podcasts. But that being said, this is the end. We definitely thank you for joining us. And have a great rest of your week, guys. Enjoy your weekend if you're listening to us on the podcast. And we will see you next week.
That's it. Thank you. Have a great night.